So it's finally here, MMPR/TMNT 2, the sequel to the 2019 comic we got back in the day, and I gotta say, I'm so glad that that comic finally got a sequel because I loved the original 5-part issue run of the crossover between the Turtles and the Rangers, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen next in this crossover sequel. Although there's been a couple of covers and a couple of solicitations that's slightly spoiling what's about to happen, either way, I'm really excited to go into this book fully prepared to see what Ryan is going to bring for us in this crossover comic. So, without any further ado, let's talk about MMPR/TMNT 2. So, with this comic, we've got Ryan Parrott returning to write the sequel, and we've got Dan Mora to do the artwork. And I gotta say, Dan Mora, as always, is freaking on point with the art. I always love seeing Dan Mora when he comes back to do a Power Rangers book. Dan Mora's artwork is always on point, and it's the same case here. Once again, Dan is doing some amazing artwork in this comic. So, we've got two amazing talents, along with a bunch of other amazing talents, working on this comic. So, without any further ado, let's talk about the plot. So the issue opens up on the rooftops with Casey Jones facing off against Karai, and he's trying to get some answers out of her because it's been 6 months since the original comic, and the Shredder and Rita Repulsa still have not been found. Not even a peep out of them. So Casey Jones is trying to interrogate Karai, and we get this really cool fight scene on the rooftop, but of course Casey Jones gets chopped out and he gets captured by a mysterious foe. And that's going to come into play later down the line in the comic because the cover's kind of spoiled it, but I'll talk about that when we get to it. So after that, we then cut to the juice bar, and we've got April, we've got Kimberly, we've got Zach, and we've got Donnie and Mikey hanging out at the juice bar. So what's really interesting is Billy and Donnie have invented this really interesting hologram tech that allows them to sort of blend in with everything going on around them. And I gotta say, it's a really interesting bit of tech because we see the turtles looking like actual humans, which is a really interesting note, which I'm sure has been done before here and there and probably some version of the TV show or the comics, but it's a really interesting take to see them like this in the comic where it's holograms making them look human. So it's very sort of high-tech tech going on to sort of make them blend in. But we also get to see some really funny interactions of Bulk and Skull trying to hit on April, and they're trying to get an interview with her. But not only that, they're also discussing the sort of whereabouts of what could have possibly happened with Rita and Shredder on the moon, because they're picking up no signals there as well, and they place sort of trackers there, or sort of infrared sensors to see if they do make any moves, and apparently it's been just as quiet. So it's a really interesting note that we haven't seen anything from Shredder or Rita Repulsa in the past 6 months, and that's sort of building up to what we're probably going to be seeing in the next upcoming issues. So after that, we then cut to Donnie and Billy hanging out in the tech room, and I gotta say, I love the touches that Ryan and Dan did in this issue because we got to see Billy's old sort of armor that he made back in Go-Go, and we have not seen this thing in ages, and it's just hanging out there, it's just hanging up, and seeing how we see it like in the forefront, it's not a cameo, we get a pretty good look at it. I do wonder if that armor is going to play a role in this sort of miniseries sequel, which I'm hoping we do get to see that armor again, because we get a good look at it. Either it's a cameo or it's a little Easter egg, but we get to see it again, which is really cool. But I do like Billy and Donnie sort of teching out together, and sort of Billy's invented some kind of device, and you've got Donnie who wants to make some modifications on the Dragonzord. So I do like how these two characters bounce off each other really well, and it really works off with their sort of interactions in the comic. Speaking of another good interaction of characters we get in this issue, and that is we see Leo and Jason training. And what's really cool about this training scene as they're sort of exchanging blows with each other is Leo is using the power sword and Jason is using Leo's katanas as they're training sort of in the danger room or whatever it is in the command center. So we have this really cool sparring match between the two characters, and I do love sort of the interactions and the back and forths that Jason and Leo have with each other during this training. So I do like how these two leaders are sort of interacting and working off each other. So after that, we then cut to the rooftops where we've got Tommy, we've got Raph, and we've got Jason, and they're sort of going on a bit of patrol, and they're talking about how they haven't heard anything from Casey Jones in a while, and Raph notices how weird that is that Casey Jones wouldn't go radio silence for at least a week. So they go into the sewers as they try to get some clues, and they run into two interesting characters. One of them, I don't know if they're a Turtles character or not. They could be created for this comic, but they're called Dethrone, and it's just a guy in armor, and he's got like a big shield, and he's just living in the sewers. And then we've got the Rat King, and the Rat King in this comic is drawn really grotesque, really gross, really awesome looking, I will say that, with how gross the bandages cover his face and his teeth all messed up. But we find out that a bunch of people have been going missing, and it's a ranger doing it, so that sort of confuses everyone. So after that, we then have Goldar, Bebop, and Rocksteady busting Baxter Stockman out of prison. And soon after that, the Rangers show up, and a huge brawl between all these heroes and all these villains starts happening. And I gotta say, the action scenes are drawn really freaking well. But then after that, Casey Jones shows up, and you see Raph, he's relieved that Casey Jones is okay, gives him a hug, gives him a punch in the face, and he asks for Casey Jones' assistance, and Casey's like, sure, I can help. And then Casey quickly turns on our heroes, and then morphs into Ranger X. And I gotta say, the Ranger X suit looks freaking amazing, and I wish we didn't get solicitations or preview covers spoiling this, because it was a cool turn pager reveal seeing Casey Jones morph into this suit. It sucks that it got spoiled early, but it is what it is. But either way, it's a really cool looking suit. I'm a huge fan of it. Seeing it in this comic in comic form on the pages looks really amazing as well. Dan Mora did an amazing job with this design. I think it looks pretty freaking sweet. But Casey Jones sort of kicks the crap out of our heroes, and they get away with Baxter Stockman. And that's kind of where the issue ends, where you find out that Casey Jones is being controlled by the bad guys, he's working with them, and he's got a new Ranger form. So it kind of ends on an interesting cliffhanger that sets up the whole premise of this sequel comic, and I can't wait to see where it's going to go next, because like I said, Casey Jones, he's able to morph now, he's evil, and he could be fighting against our Rangers and our Turtles, so that's something to keep in mind of. Not only that, you got Baxter Stockman showing up in this issue as well. Baxter Stockman's going to play a role in it as well. That's going to be cool to see, but like I said, I can't wait to see where the comic is going to go moving forward, especially with what I talked about earlier this week with one of the preview covers that dropped, showing off with what will happen to our heroes later down the line. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it, so I won't go into too much details, but anyway guys, Power Rangers Ninja Turtles 2 issue 1 was pretty freaking sweet. I enjoyed it quite a fair bit. Once again, Ryan Parrott is doing an amazing job. Dan Moore is doing an amazing job. Everyone working on this comic is doing an amazing job, and I can't wait to see where it's going to go next. So with that said, I think I'm going to bring this review, recap, discussion, whatever you want to call it, to a close, and I'll catch you guys later. So what do you think is going to happen next in this issue? Did you enjoy this first issue? Love it? Hate it? Tell me in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. With that said, I think I'm going to bring this video to a close. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out, take care, bye.